Welcome back to my channel, everyone. Three tips here, and what I have is all the waste containers from my previous video. And so what we're going to try to do is recover the gold from the waste containers. There's the gold down to the bottom of the waste container. That's what we're after down there. These are all the waste containers from my previous video. Each one is going to contain a quantity of gold down on the bottom of them. And so what we're going to try to do in this video is recover all the gold that's in the bottom of each of these waste containers. I just poured off half of a beaker of waste solution into this stock pot. I'm going to remove this and get it out of the way now. I've got an empty 5-gallon bucket here, and we're going to use that as a temporary waste container because all of my other temporary waste containers are full of waste. Both of my stock pots are full of waste. So we're just going to pour off the clarified liquid here into this 5-gallon bucket. And right there is what we're after, that little bit of gold that's down on the bottom of that beaker. That's what we're going to try to do. We're going to try to recover that gold that's down on the bottom of each one of these waste containers. So what I'll do is just pour off the waste out of each one of these beakers. Here's the waste solutions that we poured off from all of those glass containers. What I'm going to do is get this out of the way now. Now we'll go through one at a time. Put these beakers up on some heat. I'm adding some hydrochloric acid. I'm going to put in some nitric acid. And dissolve the gold in the bottom of that beaker. This took about 5 minutes. So now let's, I've got a clean beaker here, and we'll pour our gold that we've dissolved out of the bottom into this clean beaker. Pull the next guy up. Set him on here. Let's get some acid on him first. Hydrochloric acid going in. Set him on some heat. Now we'll add a few drops of nitric acid, maybe a half a milliliter. That beaker's done. It took about 5 minutes. Now what we'll do is add him to our collection beaker here. Just add the solution right on in. Alright, now we're going to reconfigure for some larger containers. Add some hydrochloric as before, just enough to cover the bottom. I'm going to add half a milliliter of nitric acid. This one took about 15 minutes. So now what we'll do is add this to our collection of liquids here. Do the same for this 5-liter beaker. It's got a little bit of gold in it. Now we'll add some hydrochloric acid. I'm going to put in a little bit of nitric now. About half a milliliter or so. That one took about another 15 minutes. So now what we'll do is we'll get this emptied out into our collection beaker. Alright, we're going to bring up the main attraction here. This is our temporary waste container. It's got some ferrous sulfate still left in it. I'm adding some hydrochloric acid to cover the bottom of the container. I think I'm going to add about 3 milliliters now of nitric acid. Let's see if we can get this gold to go into solution. Here we go. pretty much got everything to go in solution in this flask. So let's transfer it now into our collection beaker over here. I'm adding some sulfuric acid to precipitate out any lead that may be present. Now we're going to add a few ice cubes to cool our solution off and try to precipitate out any silver chloride that may be present. I'm going to go ahead and filter our solution now. See if we can get it to clear up a little bit. I cleared the solution up fairly well for us. Let's go ahead and get this now into a clean beaker. Got some stump out, which is sodium metabisulfite. We're going to add a couple spoons here and precipitate out the pure gold. Here we go. Here's our gold. I allowed this to settle overnight, and you can see it's kind of caked up on the bottom of the beaker there. That looks pretty cool. Now what we'll do is pour off the waste into our waste container, and we're going to take a look at the yield that we've got on the amount of gold. Alright, here's what it looks like down in the bottom of our beaker. I'm not too worried about going for high purity here. So what we're going to do is just get this in a melt dish, melt it up into a button, and see what kind of yield we got here. Let's take this over on the melt table, and we'll melt this up into a little button. Here's our nice little gold button. It's got a little bit of flux on it. So what we'll do is I'm going to add some distilled water to a beaker. We'll drop in our piece of gold. And now I'm going to set it on heat. Add a little bit of sulfuric acid. Just a couple of milliliters. And we'll let that heat up, and what that'll do is that'll dissolve all that flux off of there for us. That just took a few minutes. Now we'll get this off the heat. Let it cool off. Got all the flux off of there now. Let's take it in, rinse it off, and get our button. Alright, the underside of this button has got a mirror finish. It looks like very high purity gold, but I'm going to estimate 990 to 995. Hope I don't ruin that, but let's go ahead and get our trusty stamp out here. And I'm going to try stamping 3 tips on here. Can you see that? Here we go. That caved it in, so it probably ruined the finish underneath. There we got 3 tips on the top. And the underside don't look too bad. Here's our final product. Got 3 tips stamped on there. Let's get a weight on this thing. We got 16 grams, looks like. That thing always does that when I'm showing a video. It flickers back and forth between two different weights. We'll call it 15.9. But that's the gold that I recovered out of the waste containers. And we'll offer this for sale on my eBay site. This will conclude the video. Thank you for watching.